Rain poured over the marble steps of the Crystal Avenue Hotel, the kind of place where luxury whispered rather than shouted. Inside, chandeliers sparkled like captured stars, and guests in designer suits clinked glasses of champagne. At the center of it all stood Amara Collins, 38, elegant, wrapped in a golden gown that shimmered under the light. She was the CEO of Collins Enterprises, worth millions, a woman who commanded attention without ever asking for it. But as the laughter and light swirled around her, her smile felt heavy, a mask she'd perfected over 10 long years. Her assistant whispered, "Mrs. Collins, the catering manager needs a word," and Amara excused herself, heading toward the service hallway. That's when she froze. Carrying a tray of empty glasses, his shirt damp from sweat, stood David Johnson, her ex-husband. His face was leaner, older, but his eyes, those same brown eyes that once made her believe the world was good, still carried warmth, even behind the exhaustion. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The hallway's hum quieted, and time folded back 10 years. "Amara," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "David," she replied, 1,000 emotions locked behind those 2 syllables. A decade ago, they were young, in love, and poor. She was a nurse in Baltimore. He was an artist painting street murals. They lived in a tiny apartment where laughter was easy and love filled the air more than food did. But life chipped away at their joy. Bills piled up, landlords threatened eviction, and Amara's wealthy mother never missed a chance to remind her, "You married beneath you. A dreamer can't feed a family." Amara defended him for years, until the day she couldn't. When David's dream of an art gallery partnership fell apart and they lost everything, the arguments began. Her double shifts turned into triples. David, wounded by his own failures, fell into silence. He'd paint all night, sell nothing, and retreat further into himself, convinced he couldn't give her the life she deserved. Then came the night it all shattered. "I can't do this anymore. David," she'd cried, "we're drowning, and you're not even trying to swim." "I'm trying," he'd whispered, his voice breaking, "but maybe I'm not enough for you anymore." They signed the divorce papers in a sterile, silent room. Amara left with a single suitcase and a heart full of regret. After the divorce, Amara threw herself into her work with a ferocious obsession. She moved to New York, took night courses, and joined a small medical tech startup. Within 5 years, she designed a groundbreaking diagnostic device that caught the eye of major investors. By the time she turned 35, Collins Biotech was valued in the hundreds of millions. The newspapers called her the woman who turned pain into power. But behind every headline, behind every successful deal, was an ache she could never soothe, the ache of what and who she had lost. And now, 10 years later, he stood before her, wearing a catering uniform, holding a tray that trembled slightly in his hands. His fingers, the hands that once painted dreams across city walls, were rough and calloused. He tried to smile. "Didn't expect to see you here, Amara." She swallowed, her voice barely steady. I didn't expect this either. I worked part-time with the hotel's events team," he explained, forcing a light laugh. "Pays the bills." 1,000 questions sat on her tongue, but all she could manage was the safest one. "How have you been?" He shrugged, a gesture that spoke volumes. "Alive. That's something." She felt her throat tighten. "You're still painting?" His eyes dimmed, the light in them flickering out. "Not much. These days. Hard to find time when you're working 2 jobs." That simple sentence broke something inside her. The man who once dreamed in vibrant colors now lived his life in shades of gray. Just then, her event manager appeared, oblivious to the storm of emotions in the quiet hallway. "Mrs. Collins, we're ready for your speech." Amara blinked, snapping back to the present. "Yes. Of course." As she walked toward the stage, her heart felt heavier with each step, the golden dress suddenly feeling like a suit of armor. On stage, under the spotlight, Amara looked out at the glittering crowd. She saw investors, politicians, socialites, people who only knew her as a success story, a headline. Her assistant handed her the prepared notes, but she set them aside. Tonight, she began, her voice trembling just slightly. We celebrate not just business success, but human resilience. Her gaze drifted to the back of the room, where David stood near the catering table, watching her quietly. I wasn't always who I am today, she continued, her voice growing stronger. There was a time when I thought love and dreams were luxuries I couldn't afford. But the truth is, those dreams were what made me who I am. The crowd nodded politely, not understanding the depth of her words. She paused, took a breath, and said something completely unplanned, something straight from her aching heart. Sometimes, we forget the people who believed in us before the world did, the ones who saw something special in us when we felt like we were nothing. Her voice cracked on the last word. To them, she whispered, we owe everything. The room erupted in applause, but Amara's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Across the ballroom, David looked down, pretending to busy himself with glasses. But she saw the way his shoulders trembled. When the event finally ended, Amara walked outside. The rain was still falling softly. She stood under the Hotel Loning, clutching her purse, unsure if she was waiting for her car or for him. Then she saw him, loading trays into a catering van, the cold rain soaking through his thin shirt. Without thinking, she walked over. David, she said. He turned, surprised to see her. You'll catch a cold out here, he said, his concern immediate and instinctual. She managed a faint smile. Still worrying about me after all these years? He chuckled, a sad, familiar sound. Old habits die hard. They stood in a comfortable silence, the rain whispering between them. I saw your name in the papers, he said finally. Didn't think it was really you. I'm proud of you, Amara. You were always meant for great things. Her eyes burned. Don't say that. I wasn't great without you, David. I just learned to hide the empty parts. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and saw past the CEO. You don't owe me anything. I know, she said softly, but I owe myself the truth. She reached into her purse and handed him an envelope. I bought the old art studio on 9th Street. The one you used to rent, it's yours again. No strings attached, no pity. A second chance. David froze, staring at the envelope as if it were on fire. Amara, I can't take that. Yes, you can, she insisted, her voice breaking. Because you gave me mine once, when I had nothing but fear. You believed in me. Tears glistened in his eyes. You don't have to fix my life. I'm not, she whispered. I'm just giving back what was always yours, your dream. Weeks later, new headlines appeared. Former caterer's art exhibition, sponsored by Collins Biotech CEO, draws global praise. Well, didn't he know the full story how a millionaire found her ex-husband struggling and chose grace over pride? But those who attended the exhibition felt the raw emotion in every brushstroke of pain, loss, and finally, redemption. The centerpiece was a painting titled 10 Years of Rain. It depicted a man and a woman standing under one umbrella, their faces half hidden, their hands almost, but not quite, touching. Amara stood quietly in the back as David gave his opening night speech. I once thought losing someone meant losing everything, he told the crowd, his voice filled with gratitude. But sometimes, love circles back not to stay, but to remind you that you mattered. After the speech, he found her. Thank you, he said, the words carrying the weight of a decade. She smiled, a genuine, light-filled smile. Just promise me one thing: never stop painting again. He nodded. Never. They didn't fall back into love. That chapter was closed, but something more powerful happened. Forgiveness. The kind of forgiveness that sets both hearts free. A year later, one of David's paintings, Golden Silence, sold for $500,000. His art was finally being recognized, not because of her name, but because of his own truth, his own talent. Amara attended his second exhibition quietly, a proud but distant supporter. She didn't need to stay long. As she left the gallery, she turned back one last time and saw him surrounded by admirers, smiling again, truly alive again. And for the first time in a decade, her own heart felt light, whole. She walked into the night, whispering to herself, maybe love doesn't end, it just changes shape. And somewhere behind her, in the warm glow of the gallery, David looked up and smiled, as if he'd heard her. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel for more content that explores the depths of the human heart. We'll see you in the next one.